Heartwarming, little girl kicked out for stealing. Milk discovers surprising power of kindness. Lily trotted down the familiar cracked sidewalks of her small town, her heart brimming with hope. She wanted to help her mother, working late shifts at the diner, just to keep food on their table. As she approached the corner grocery store, her eyes caught a glimpse of a carton of milk, casually tossed near the dumpster. It looked like it had been forgotten, a perfect fix for the empty fridge waiting at home. Believing she could salvage it, she reached for the carton. But before she could taste her small victory, a sharp voice cut through the air. "What do you think you're doing, kid?" The humiliation crashed over her like a tidal wave. She barely had time to process the man's disdain before he shoved her out the door, a label of thief seared into her consciousness. Tears threatened to spill as she wandered the streets, anger twisting with despair. Why couldn't she catch a break? Was it her fault life was unfair? Every ounce of shame felt like an anchor, tying her to the obstacles that refused to budge. With raw, tangled emotions, she acknowledged the world felt heavy on the shoulders of someone so young. Couldn't they see she only wanted to help? As the sun dipped low, painting the world in shadows, Lily found herself at the community center. Here, she met Ms. Jenkins, a retired teacher with wisdom gleaming in her eyes. Ms. Jenkins offered Lily a listening ear and embraced her spirit, recognizing the light within her, a light that fought through the crevices of hardship. Each story Ms. Jenkins told filled Lily with newfound vigor, believing that kindness could plant seeds of change. Yet, even as encouragement pulsed through their exchanges, Lily felt the weight of her mother's struggles, the societal judgments that followed them like a cloud. One evening, Lily's mother returned home with an ashen face. Something had shifted within her. A tremor of defeat as she recounted an unjust treatment from her boss. Lily's heart clenched at the sight of her mother's vulnerability. Anger surged up inside her, and for a moment, it threatened to consume her. It was then that clarity sparked. Instead of shrinking back, she would rise like a phoenix. This was her call to action, a moment to stand up against the unfairness that clung to their lives. Gathering her friends at the community center, Lily poured her heart into a plan to make care packages for those struggling in their town. But doubt quickly followed her like a shadow. What if this doesn't work? What if my idea is just a silly dream? The echoes of disbelief from peers rang in her ears as she stared blankly at the project lined out before her. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A tangled mixture of hope and failure simmered in her chest, rippling through her thoughts like a storm breaching the horizon. Was she foolish for believing? As whispers about her intentions grew louder around town, her resolve began to falter. What if she failed? What if, in attempting to lift others, it only pushed her deeper into the abyss of disappointment? In this moment of uncertainty, desperation gripped her. With nothing but the weight of the world resting on her shoulders, she felt as if she stood on the precipice of a mountain, staring down from a dizzying height. Her fists curled tightly, fingernails biting into her palms as she wrestled with every haunting question. The pressure mounted. Did anyone believe like she did? Could she really change anything for her mother, for herself? The looming unknown lingered ominously like a thunderstorm, leaving her future dangerously unresolved. As night draped its heavy cloak over the town, Lily sat cross-legged on the floor of her small bedroom, surrounded by sheets of colored paper and hastily scribbled notes. The clutter seemed to mock her. Each piece of paper was a representation of her dreams, blended with insecurities, a collage of heart and fear. What if I can't make this work? She whispered to herself, the words echoing in the stillness like a prayer without faith. She flicked through the notes, each one a fragment of her resolve, yet each also a reminder of the judgments she sensed lurking in the minds of others. The more she pondered, the sharper the sting of potential failure felt. What if her friends were right? What if she was destined to remain the girl labeled as a thief, the kid who couldn't make a difference? The juxtaposition of hope and doubt played a relentless duet in her mind. Then, in a moment of clarity, she recalled Ms. Jenkins' stories, the way the retired teacher spoke of resilience as strength. Could she channel that wisdom into action? There was power in the possibility of failing, she realized. Each failure was a lesson wrapped in experience. With renewed determination, she reached for her phone. The glow illuminated her face, casting shadows across her determined brows. She decided to call in for reinforcements. She would need help to create tangible change. "Hey, Sarah, it's Lily. Can you and Jake come over tomorrow? I need to talk about the care packages," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Hanging up, she felt a surge of purpose. Collaborating would give her the strength to overcome her self-doubt. She began to visualize what those care packages might look like, and what they would mean to families like hers. A touch of hope, a taste of kindness, and perhaps a way to mend the invisible threads of community. The following day crawled into view, the anticipation palpable as her friends arrived. With sparking energy, Lily laid out her vision, passionate and clear. "I want these packages to fill our neighbors' fridges, but more importantly, their hearts. Let's include a note in each one. Something personal, like a word of encouragement." To her surprise, her friends rallied around the idea, laughter mixing with design ideas as they brainstormed what to include. As she watched them sketch out colorful notes, her heart began to lighten. Their strengthened bond acted like a buoy, holding her above the disillusionment. Yet, as the sun began to set, casting an orange glow through her window, clouds of uncertainty drifted back in. What if they were seen as just charity? What if her intentions got twisted again? Those thoughts clung to her like a layer of grime she couldn't scrub off. But this time, she wouldn't shy away from the challenge. Confronting critics was part of her journey. She would show that kindness wasn't something to criticize, but to celebrate. Over the next few days, the project flourished. Each bundle represented not just sustenance, but a powerful message of compassion. As the final day approached, anxiety flared within her. The weight of each prepared package felt heavier than the last, a testament to the struggles she felt in her own life. Yet she could not let fear choke her dreams again. Determined, she took a deep breath, needing to remind herself of the purpose that lit a fire inside her. The time had come to face not only the unknown, but also the disbelievers. It was more than care packages now. It was a personal stand against the labels that sought to define her. As their group gathered for the final assembly, a realization crested within her. This had evolved into something deeper than a mere act of giving. It was a testimony to resilience, a defiance against the challenges life tossed her way. She would not just be a girl associated with theft. She would rise and redefine herself through her actions. The nearing dusk prompted her to glance at her friends, all with eager faces as they packed the final items. But a sudden knock at the door sent her heart racing. She wasn't ready for confrontation. Who could it be? A ripple of worry washed over her as she headed toward the sound. The moment of truth was upon her. Lily hesitated before the door, her breath caught in her throat. The weight of her undertaking hung in the air, mixing with the uncertainty that came from the unexpected visitor. For a fleeting moment, she pictured the worst. An accusatory glare. Whispers of doubt echoed in the hall. Shaking her head, she stepped forward and opened the door. Standing before her was Mr. Henderson, the neighbor whose children were often caught in the torrents of schoolyard gossip. His brow furrowed, but there was more curiosity than contempt behind his eyes. "Hey, Lily. I saw you and your friends working on something. Mind if I come in?" His willingness to engage felt like an unexpected lifeline, and Lily nodded, motioning him inside. The room was alive with chatter and laughter, an evident contrast to the air of tension she felt moments ago. Her friends seemed to accept the intruder readily, which surprised her. Perhaps they sensed the power of community too, even if it wasn't articulated yet. As Mr. Henderson glanced at the care packages littering the floor, his lips twitched into a smile. "I heard you were trying to do something nice for families in the neighborhood. That's a great idea." She mustered the courage to confront the narrative. "I just thought it might help. Maybe show people kindness without any strings attached." "Kindness is never without strings," he replied softly, his gaze steady. "But it can still hold people together, especially in tough times." His words clung to her, provoking a stir of thinking. It was easy for her to dismiss kindness as an act of charity, but could it indeed form connections? As she watched Mr. Henderson engage with her friends, a new perspective bloomed. She realized that their combined efforts echoed far beyond just delivering food. They could create a ripple effect, encouraging others to do the same. Yet, the shadow of doubt draped over her once again, teasing her mind. What if this was merely a fleeting moment of goodwill, tangled up in her own desire for redemption? She had to confront her motivations and aspirations. Was it about changing views, or was it a desperate plea to reshape her own identity? "Do you ever think about how a small act can have a big impact?" she asked, her voice wavering. "Absolutely," he replied, his tone earnest. "But often it requires us to step out of ourselves and take risks. That's where real growth happens." With each second, her resolve sharpened. Thoughts spiraled through her mind, brimming with fresh possibilities. Taking risks was what she'd been afraid of before, afraid of failing, afraid of being misjudged. But what if this very moment, the gathering, the sense of community, was a significant risk? The only way to know was to go further. As they finalized the last of the packages, her mind flared with an idea. If she could confront her worst fears while embracing the strength from those around her, perhaps this could start a cascading series of changes, not just for herself, but for everyone involved. Drawing her friends close, she proposed a plan. "What if we document the deliveries, capture the reactions, share them? I want people to see how kindness can change lives, even just a little. How it's about connection." Excitement buzzed through the group, their eyes lighting up. Involving others, a concept that always frightened her, was morphing into something transformative. The gathering felt electric with energy. But another knock shattered her focus. This time she felt different, was ready. As her heart raced, she thought of how far she had come and what awaited her beyond that door. The stakes had been raised, and with courage igniting her spirit, she stepped towards the unknown again, bracing herself for whoever awaited her. But the moment she opened the door, the face that met hers was not what she expected. The chill that raced down her spine shattered her resolve and left her questioning everything once more. What had she truly started? And who was standing on her threshold? The figure standing at the door sent a jolt through Lily. It was Mrs. Turner, the strictest teacher from her old school, known for her piercing stares and sharp reprimands. Lily instinctively shifted back, her thoughts spiraling. Was this a mistake? Had she foolishly put herself in the spotlight, only to have her past come rushing back like a cold tide? "Lily," Mrs. Turner said, in a tone that vacillated between sternness and something softer. "We need to talk." The room behind Lily was buzzing with chatter, but now each voice felt distant. The vibrant colors of her friends' laughter faded, replaced by a stark spotlight illuminating the tension in her chest. The situation had turned. She had hoped for an opportunity to show kindness and make connections, yet here stood someone who once represented her failures, about to confront her again. Okay, she managed, swallowing hard. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Turner stepped inside, scanning the room filled with care packages. "I heard whispers about these deliveries. I'll be honest, Lily. I didn't expect you to be involved in something like this. You always had your challenges in school and— Yes, I know, Lily interrupted, her voice louder than intended, an edge of frustration slipping through her composure. But this isn't about school or my past. It's about helping people now. Mrs. Turner raised an eyebrow. Helping people? Or seeking redemption? Lily's pulse raced as she registered the undercurrent of accusation. Was this her motivation? Was her kindness merely self-serving? The confrontation exposed her vulnerabilities, each word from the teacher cutting deeper than she anticipated. It doesn't matter, she asserted, her cheeks flushing. What matters is, I'm trying to do something good. Can't we just focus on that? A moment of silence hung between them, the air thick with unresolved tension. Mrs. Turner's expression softened, but only slightly. Lily, what you're doing is commendable, but I know how easily the desire to help can blur with other motivations. I wouldn't want you repeating your mistakes. Lily suddenly felt trapped within her own defenses, an echo of her past failures chasing her down the hall. And what mistakes are those? She challenged, frustration now wrestling with her sense of purpose. Let me remind you, Mrs. Turner continued, her voice lower. You can't give just for the sake of getting. You have to truly want to help others without any expectations. That's where the real growth lies. Lily paused, her heart racing as she contemplated the sting of truth in those words. Was she merely seeking validation? The profound alternative haunted her. Could it be that all the goodwill was rooted in her desire to redefine her identity and shield herself from judgment? She wanted to say she was more than the girl who had struggled. Was that wish clouding her vision of generosity? What if helping can mean different things? Lily asked softly, surprisingly aware of the weight behind her own question. What if it's a stepping stone for me to discover who I can be? Mrs. Turner regarded her with a knowing gaze. Then you must decide how to navigate that, without losing what you truly aim to accomplish. This is the point where many falter. The teacher's words resonated deeply. They were a call to action amidst doubt and fears of failure. Lily felt a surge of determination erupt within her. Maybe the risk she yearned to take wasn't just about facilitating kindness, but confronting her own truths head-on. As she examined Mrs. Turner's face, she saw the potential for understanding. Maybe I'm still discovering that. But isn't it worth exploring, even if I stumble? The tension shifted slightly, and a flicker of respect passed between them, a connection forged from shared vulnerability. The energy in the room reshaped, invigorating her resolve. Then let us explore together, Mrs. Turner replied, the hint of a smile breaking through. But just as a hint of hope began to shine through the heaviness, a new knock echoed against the door, more urgent this time, carrying with it the weight of impending revelation. Lily's heart raced again, anticipation slipping back into anxiety as she wondered who would enter next, either fortifying her growth or unraveling it entirely once more. What awaited her on the other side? The door creaked open, and Lily braced herself for the unknown. A woman stood framed in the doorway, her worn but vibrant attire reflecting a life filled with stories. With tangled hair spilling over her shoulders and an expression that oscillated between annoyance and desperation, it was clear this was no ordinary visitor. Lily recognized her from the neighborhood. Jessica, a figure often whispered about, seen at a distance by those who hesitated to approach. Lily, Jessica said, her voice catching. I heard you started this package thing. I need help. The weight of her words hung heavily in the air, drawing the room's attention. Lily's heart sank, adrenaline racing. There was a vulnerability in Jessica that mirrored her own, and beneath her trepidation bloomed an instinct to act. But could she? Was she ready to step forward again, confronting the very doubts that had just been laid bare by Mrs. Turner? What do you need? Lily inquired, her voice steadier than she felt. It's my daughter, Jessica began, her eyes glistening. She gets bullied at school. It's tearing her apart. I've tried everything, but I'm out of options. I don't know how to help her. The raw honesty of Jessica's plea struck a chord. Wasn't this about the real-world struggles they all faced? This wasn't a call for charity. It felt like an invitation, sharing deeply rooted challenges that asked for complicity from others. Caught between sympathy and self-doubt, Lily hesitated. What did she know about handling such intimate circumstances? Wasn't she still wrestling with her past? Nevertheless, the familiar ember of determination ignited within her. Perhaps assisting Jessica's daughter could provide the clarity she desperately sought. "Let's talk about it," she suggested, gesturing to a quiet corner of the room. Lily listened intently as Jessica shared the tumultuous details of her daughter's experiences. Each revelation resonated painfully within her. Here was a chance to employ her initiative, not in a superficial way, but as a bridge toward genuine connection and tangible change. A thought struck her suddenly. Could this be her opportunity for personal growth? The idea took root, planting itself firmly in her consciousness. Helping Jessica and her daughter might mean more than just overcoming doubt. It was a chance to rediscover her own strength, a practical means of deriving lessons from past failings. As she formulated a plan, Lily felt a rush of confidence intertwining with anxiety. She wanted to create a safe space, perhaps an empowering group where children like Jessica's daughter could come together, share their experiences, and find solidarity. "What if we start something?" she proposed, envisioning a small gathering at the community center. "We could create a place for kids to talk and support each other. You're not alone in this." The words flowed with unexpected ease, and as she observed Jessica's face shift from skepticism to hope, an unanticipated resolve blossomed within her. Yes, she knew the fear of being judged and falling short, but this was different. This was not merely about her. This was about providing a platform for others. "Will you help me?" Jessica asked, her voice softer now, filled with the vulnerability that had initially drawn Lily in. "Absolutely," Lily replied, meaning it with complete sincerity. The murmur of the room grew louder again, the initial tension replaced with determination. Yet, in that instant, doubt crept back into her mind. As they planned, could she genuinely implement a solution? Or was the specter of past mistakes still looming over her? The question lingered unresolved, tightening within her chest. Despite her conviction, an unsettling truth remained. The fear of stepping up might just lead to another confrontation with her own insecurities. Lily glanced up, ready to speak, when another knock echoed, louder this time. She turned toward the door, her heart quickening. What if the next visitor threatened her fledgling ideas? Or worse, exposed a weakness she had only just begun to confront? She would soon learn if this moment of ambition, paired with vulnerability, could sustain the fragile growth she was starting to cultivate. The door opened fully, revealing yet another unexpected presence, and with it, a new potential storm brewing in the guise of opportunity or challenge. What lay in wait? The figure that stepped through the doorway was a tall man, filled with an urgency that transcended mere concern. He was no stranger. Lily recognized him as Mr. Hayes, the guidance counselor from the local high school. His face was set, framing a lifetime of unyielding optimism that had perhaps faced more hurdles than he cared to admit. The silence in the room thickened, ready to absorb the tension. "Lily," he said, his voice calm but insistent. "I've been hearing good things about your initiative. I need to speak to you. Something has come up." Lily felt a tightening sensation in her gut. Mr. Hayes's visit hinted at complications she was not yet prepared to navigate. It was just as she had begun to muster faith in her plans for Jessica's daughter. Now here was someone else, another voice pressing in on her fragility. "Of course, Mr. Hayes. What's on your mind?" she replied, forcing a steadiness she didn't feel. "The school board is under pressure regarding incidents of bullying. They don't recognize the emotional toll this has on kids. I think what you're trying to create could be vital, but there's a catch. They want measurable results. They want to see immediate impact. The words hit her like cold water. Results, immediate impact. These weren't mere buzzwords. They were challenges laced with expectations. She sensed the weight of them, a daunting anchor pulling drama into her fragile plans. Yes, I think we can... it's not just about results, Mr. Hayes. We're trying to build something deeper here, she replied, the familiar quiver of doubt creeping back in. Mr. Hayes held her gaze, that ever-familiar glimmer of belief flickering in his eyes. I understand your intentions, but with the accountability on the rise, can you turn this idea into a palpable strategy? Can you make this happen in a way that speaks to the board? Lily felt her heart race, not in exhilaration, but sheer anxiety. Could she transform an idea born from vulnerability into something that others could measure? A nagging awareness settled in, critiquing her ambitions. She was a storyteller, not a strategist. But as she looked towards Jessica, who stood in the corner with bated breath, a flicker of resolute determination ignited. Here was an opportunity for both herself and the kids like Jessica's daughter. She wouldn't let fear dilute the change, just as she began to grasp its essence. What if we host a workshop? She proposed, an idea blooming amidst her swirling thoughts. We could gather stories from the children about their experiences, turn them into art or performances. If we can showcase what they're going through, it could resonate with the board. Give them something real to see. Jessica's eyes widened, reflecting a glimmer of hope. Mr. Hayes tilted his head slightly, intrigued. That's a strategy to think about. If you can create evidence of engagement and change, it might resonate. The prospect of a workshop created new images of empowerment in her mind, an unfolding path she hadn't anticipated. Children sharing their stories, finding solace in expression, with measurable outcomes that might serve to validate their experiences. And with that realization, the tightening in her heart eased just a fraction. Yet shadows of doubt loomed large. What if the stories overwhelmed her? Could she handle the emotional weight of their lived experiences? Was she equipped to be the facilitator of such vulnerable revelations? Do you think it could work? She asked, more to herself than to Mr. Hayes. She wrestled with uncertainty, teetering on the edge of commitment while questioning her preparedness. Sometimes stepping into the unknown is what defines us, he replied softly but unyieldingly, a hint of challenge in his voice. You're on the right path, but be ready for the journey. It's going to demand everything you have. As she glanced around the room, the weight of his words settled over her. The initial excitement of planning had shifted to a heavier realization. Real growth would require fearlessness, the willingness to tackle her own insecurities while guiding others through theirs. A loud thud resonated as a child tumbled through the open door. Lily's attention snapped back to the immediate context, the reality of her situation crashing back into focus. A small girl, teary-eyed and clearly upset. "Lily!" Jessica's daughter cried, catching the full attention of the room. "They said I wasn't worth anything." In that profound moment, Lily's heart sank again, threading deeper connections to her own past. Could she guide this child, help her rise above these impossible labels? The reality of her own truth stood unmoored amidst her larger aspirations. Yet there was only one way to proceed. She stiffened her resolve, her voice breaking through the noise that nearly drowned her. "Let's talk about it. We'll figure this out together." But deep down, a daunting question loomed. In confronting the rawness of these children's experiences, could she be more than just their guiding light? Could she also confront the darkness within herself? The need for transformation weighed heavily in the air, and as she looked around the room, poised between doubt and the desire for action, she knew this were only the beginning of a much longer journey. What awaited by entering this vulnerable space was yet to unfold. Lily's mind was a whirlwind of emotions as she knelt beside Jessica's daughter, whose tear-streaked face mirrored a storm of despair. "I can't help it," the girl whispered, her voice trembling. They just don't understand. With each breath, Lily felt the gravity of that statement. It resonated within her like a familiar echo from her own childhood. The unworthiness she once battled against was now a tangible entity standing before her, taking root in this little girl. Could she truly help her navigate this darkness? Of course they don't understand, but we're going to show them, Lily said, the resolve in her voice surprising even her. Without waiting for a reply, she picked up a sketchbook that lay scattered on the floor. Let's draw what we feel. Sometimes putting feelings on paper helps. You can show them your heart. The girl blinked through her tears, a flicker of curiosity breaking the haze. You think it could work? I know it can, Lily responded, her heart swelling with a surge of determination. You're not alone in this. What if we collect everyone's feelings, their stories, and we make something beautiful out of it? In that moment, Lily was struck by a realization. Through every tear and every hurt, there lay an opportunity not just for healing, but for empowerment. The workshop she envisioned was not merely about presenting stories. It was about weaving together threads of experience, resilience, and artistry, creating a tapestry that could defy the stereotypes and labels plastered on these children. Mr. Hayes observed quietly, nodding. You're onto something, Lily. You might just be framing a new narrative for these kids. But remember, if you want tangible results, you have to outline a clear plan. Her heart raced as the challenge crystallized. She wasn't just wary of the school board's expectations. She was ready to take ownership of her vision and transform what felt daunting into a structured strategy. We'll focus on assembling those stories. We can organize sessions where kids can create art, scripts, dance, whatever speaks to them. We'll then showcase this in a presentation. It has to be more than just words. It must be an experience. The fear flickering beneath the surface started to ebb as she expanded on her idea. We'll document everything: quotes, drawings, performances, and provide metrics on engagement and emotional growth. The board will see it's not just about numbers. It's about humanity. This will be real change. You're thinking like a leader, Mr. Hayes encouraged, warmth lacing his voice. But it will be emotionally taxing. Can you handle that? Lily inhaled deeply, weighing her readiness against the enormity of what lay ahead. Could she navigate the emotional landscapes of these children while maintaining her grounding? I have to, she murmured, almost to herself. I need to step beyond my doubts. If I can guide them through their stories, perhaps I can confront my own. Jessica's daughter clasped Lily's hand, the previous tension easing just a touch. What if we make it a team effort? She ventured quietly, her bravery igniting something inside Lily. We can support each other in this. It's not just fears we're facing, it's hope too. As they sat together, it began to dawn on Lily that they could redefine their narratives together. The child's courage sparked a longing in Lily to cast aside lingering insecurities. Perhaps guiding these kids was not just about empowering them, but simultaneously confronting her own fears, transforming pain into purpose. Let's meet again tomorrow after school and start planning, Lily said, her voice steady now. We'll create a schedule for everyone to contribute. This is our chance to turn vulnerability into strength. But beneath her growing confidence, a bitter realization gripped her heart. What if her own shadows lashed out in the face of their openness? Would she break under the emotional weight she feared would accompany the stories they shared? With that haunting thought, Lily felt a familiar chill run through her. Would her own past collapse the bridge she was trying to build towards healing? Or would confronting it carve a pathway not just for the girl in front of her, but for herself as well? The conversation buzzed with tentative hope, the heavy air thickening with promise. Yet in the back of her mind, the question pulsed relentlessly. In this vulnerable endeavor, who would she truly become? The moment felt pivotal, and as she departed the small gathering, she caught sight of the empty workshop space ahead, a blank canvas waiting for their stories. Determination surged as she stepped forward, but the lurking uncertainties made her hesitate. The next day would offer them all a chance to dive into their depths, but would she have the strength to wade past her own reflection? The following day, the sunlight streamed brightly through the windows of the workshop, illuminating the dust motes swirling in the air like memories longing to surface. Lily stood at the entrance, her heart racing. This was the day they would begin to gather stories and feelings. Yet, the weight of expectation pressed down on her, each breath a delicate negotiation between fear and hope. "Okay, I can do this," she whispered to herself, adjusting her grip on the materials she had brought. She had been organizing her thoughts all night, but the moment felt surreal. The challenge loomed larger than she had anticipated. What if the children didn't take her seriously? Or worse, what would happen if she faltered? The first to arrive was Jessica's daughter, her face a canvas of unrefined determination. "I brought my sketchbook," she declared, holding it up like a trophy. "I can't wait to get started." Seeing the child's enthusiasm warmed something in Lily. "That's wonderful. You remember our plan, right? We'll share how we feel through art. You can show everyone how beautiful your thoughts are." As other children trickled in, Lily noticed varying expressions of excitement and trepidation. She gathered them in a circle, her heart swelled with a mixture of pride and anxiety. They looked to her, searching for guidance, for assurance, and for the courage to confront the emotions they had buried for far too long. "Today we're going to dive deep," she began, her voice steady. "I want each of you to express something that's heavy in your heart, something that makes you feel, and I'll be right here with you, feeling it all together." The children began sketching, writing, and moving, transforming their feelings into tangible forms. Lily walked around, peering over shoulders, offering encouragement and gently probing questions. One child drew a dark figure, shadowy and looming. The description that followed was a raw articulation of fear, isolation, and the struggle to belong. She listened intently, her own past resurfacing with each revelation, a tidal wave of memory crashing through her defenses. How similar their fears were to her own. The fear of rejection, the craving for acceptance. Could she be strong enough to handle the tide of emotions flowing toward her? Yet amidst this vulnerability, something profound stirred within her. These children were displaying a bravery she could only aspire to replicate. They were confronting their emotions in ways she had yet to master herself. Why had she always silenced her own voice? As the hours passed, emotions took flight in the room. The laughter, the tears, the revelation of truths under cover. The last child revealed a personal story about being bullied, and Lily saw the weight of shame transform into solidarity as others shared their own painful experiences surrounding that theme. It was cathartic, empowering, and surreal. "What if we take these feelings and create a story together?" Lily proposed, her mind racing. "Let's weave all of this into a performance, something that can shine a light on how we really feel. We can call it the unseen." But when she looked around, she sensed the hesitation creeping back into the air. "What if no one comes to see it?" one child asked, voice breaking, echoing Lily's own doubts. It was a question that lingered in her mind as she struggled to answer, unsure of how to quell the very same fears that plagued her. "Look," she said carefully, "what matters is that we create from our hearts. If it helps even one person feel seen, it's worth it." In that moment, she realized they weren't just creating art. They were building connections between their hearts and minds, crafting a collective strength that buoyed her determination. But as the excitement buzzed, the weight of her unaddressed past pressed heavier. Would it hold her back once more if she let it erupt? As she dismissed the group for the day, Lily felt a transformation within. She had ignited a spark, but there remained the daunting task of confronting her own shadows. What story was left to unfold in her heart? As she gazed at the artwork displayed vibrantly on the wall, one lingering thought haunted her. Would she gather the courage to unveil her own narrative? And what would it ultimately reveal? The journey had merely begun, but the harder part awaited her, facing her own unseen story that could either break her or set her free. The sun began to set, casting a golden hue across the workshop and forcing Lily to confront her reflections one last time. Staring at the bursts of color that adorned the walls, she felt like a mere observer within her own life, an artist watching others paint their truths while her canvas remained blank. With a determined breath, she resolved to change that narrative. What had manifested in those children's art was a catharsis she craved for herself. As she gathered her materials that evening, her hesitation morphed into a fierce desire to reclaim her own creative voice. It was time to face the story she had stifled for too long. Yet how? Where would she even begin? The children's vulnerability stirred a reckoning within her. Their honesty lingered in her mind. Every confession, every tear sparked a flicker of fire that now ignited her resolve. Could she transcend her self-doubt and find that same strength to reveal her own vulnerabilities? Once home, she gathered a collection of her old journals. As she flipped through the pages, memories of heartache, bravery, and missed opportunities rushed in like a torrential downpour. She had buried so many thoughts, fearful of judgment, or the haunting specter of failure. Each entry was a glimpse into her identity, fragmented yet profound. Unseen, she muttered to herself, channeling the children's title. An idea began to germinate. Maybe she could create something stitched together from their truths. A professional piece that wove their stories along with her own. But as she pondered, self-doubt wrapped its tendrils around her newfound excitement. What if it was ridiculous? What if it wouldn't resonate? That initial wave of fear stoked the fire inside her. It drove her to confront what she truly valued. It was paramount to stop believing that her experiences, or lack thereof, could overshadow the potential impact of her story. What if I fail? She thought. But what resonated deeper was, what if I fly? With renewed determination, she grabbed her sketchbook and began to jot down ideas. Her fingers stumbled over the pages, exploring forgotten verses that held pieces of her heart. The act of writing wasn't merely about recounting past pain. It was the reclamation of her narrative, the celebration of resilience that had simmered beneath the surface. As she worked late into the night, her thoughts evolved, bridging the gap between the children's words and her own. The deep scars of childhood bullying haunted her, reminders of how she too had felt like an outsider. But through that shared moment of experience, she caught a glimpse of her own strength. What she had always deemed a weakness could transform into a melody for others to hear. When dawn broke, Lily felt ready to confront the children with her artistic vision. The performance could serve as a testament to the power of shared stories, combining their voices and hers into a tapestry that could resonate far beyond the walls of the workshop. However, doubts lurked in the shadows. Would they accept her contributions? Could her journey fit seamlessly into theirs, or would it feel like an imposition? The unsteady rhythm of anticipation thrummed through her, heightened by her new revelation of self-discovery. As she prepared to meet with the children again, an unexpected anxiety crept in, an impulse to hold back her contribution, fearing it wasn't enough. But before she could talk herself out of it, a fierce resolve struck her. This time, she wouldn't shy away from uncovering her truth. It was her turn to take the stage as much as the kids. But would they embrace her vulnerability, or would it unravel the connection they had forged? With the shadows of doubt still flickering at the periphery of her courage, she stepped outside into the white morning light, heart pounding. What awaited her in the workshop could either solidify her place among them, or plunge her into deeper uncertainty. As she approached, a synapse of excitement tinged with trepidation broke within her. She was ready. But would she find acceptance or rejection? As Lily approached the workshop, the sun's warm rays felt less like a beacon and more like an interrogative glare, challenging her to confront all the uncertainties that brewed within. Today was monumental. Today, she would share her heart along with the collective spirit of the children. The buzz of excitement met her as she entered. Chairs arranged in a circle, every face illuminated with a spectrum of hope and curiosity. Lily's hands trembled slightly as she stepped to the center, her sketchbook clutched tightly to her chest, bearing the weight of her unvoiced truths. "Hey everyone," she began, breath hitching unexpectedly, the weight of anticipation pressing against her. "I know we've been talking about your stories. Today, I want to share mine too. I think our experiences can make something beautiful together." As she spoke, she felt the room pulse with energy, and she began to reveal pieces of her past. The labels, the feelings of inadequacy, and the many times she felt invisible or misunderstood. Each word carved a channel for vulnerability, lifting particles of fear from her heart. The children listened intently, rapt and engaged, seeing the parallels in their journeys reflected in her experiences. "You're not alone," she whispered at times, directing it to each of them, letting her sincerity wrap her message in warmth. Every moment of hurt can be a bridge to deeper connection if we let it. We can turn our pain into art, a collective narrative that showcases strength, resilience, and hope. When she finished, an expectant silence enveloped the group before Jessica's daughter broke through with wide-eyed resolve. "We can make what Lily said into our performance. Let's capture our hearts and craft it into something we share." Inspired by her words, the room quickly charged with a renewed sense of purpose. They each began sketching ideas, drafting text, and planning a visual representation that would weave their stories together. Lily felt the burden lift off her shoulders as they collaborated. The weight of scrutiny and potential judgment faded away, replaced by the extraordinary power they harnessed collectively. Days melted into nights as they rehearsed and brainstormed, their energy crackling with jubilant potential. Each meeting further anchored Lily's confidence, shrinking the once dominant specter of doubt lurking at the edges. What had begun as shadows of insecurity slowly morphed into a tapestry of stories celebrated and sworn to be shared. As the performance day loomed closer, anticipation rode high. Yet, as Lily looked at the vibrant faces around her, a fresh wave of anxiety crashed over her. It was one thing to share her experience with this nurturing space, but what if it didn't resonate beyond their small circle? On the eve before the performance, she sat alone with her thoughts, journaling by candlelight. "What have you accomplished?" she scribbled, outlining her journey. "You've turned shame into artistry, forged a community of compassion, and confronted your past. You are courage personified." Revisiting those points anchored her, pushing the doubts back into the recesses of her mind. She resolved that this was not just about performance. It was about embedding hope into every heart present. They were shaping their legacy with candor and creativity, redefining their identities through collaborative expression. Finally, performance day arrived, each child radiating a glow of readiness. As families began to fill the local community hall, Lily's heart raced, drumming a rhythm mixing exhilaration and apprehension. She stood at the back, flanked by Jessica and her daughter, looking out at supporters, faces etched with pride and expectation. Each child took the stage, sharing their written words through poems and shared performances, every revelation restoring a tapestry of emotional connection. The audience was captivated, laughter mingling with tears as the stories uplifted spirits, each act a vivid display of tenacity. Lily's heart swelled as she slid into a role of guidance, coaching their courage to shine through vulnerability. As the final act unfolded, Lily stepped onto the stage to share her own piece. She spilled forth her truth, the journey of self-discovery and acceptance woven closely with theirs. Each of us holds an unseen story, deep-rooted yet transformative. We are not defined by our struggles. We rise above them. Today, we embrace our narratives collectively. Applause erupted. But it wasn't just applause. It was validation. For the first time, Lily felt wholly seen. The weight of those emotional battles felt lighter. The burden she bore transformed into collective shoulders united against any challenge that lay ahead. She stepped back, watching the children shine. Each one of them was altered. They were a blend of warriors who had channeled pain into purpose, emerging empowered and emboldened. The audience erupted in cheers, affirming that kindness and connection held immense power to reshape destiny. As they retreated backstage, filled with victorious energy and hearty giggles, Lily found Ms. Jenkins waiting with proud eyes. "You did it, Lily. Look at what you've built." "Not just me. We did it together," she replied, her smile radiant and unreserved. There was an unshakable confidence within her now, anchored in the reality that her past no longer dictated her identity. She was no longer the girl labeled as a thief. She had emerged as a beacon of resilience and unity. And among the warmth of their collective triumph, the final realization unfolded. She had achieved something far more significant than personal growth. She had cultivated a community grounded in compassion and illuminated newfound paths for everyone involved. True fulfillment coursed through her veins. Not only had she conquered her fears, but she had shown others how to find their own voices too. With gratitude radiating from within, she embraced the future ahead with clarity and resolve, ready to embark on the next journey, whatever it might be. As Lily stepped out into the bright afternoon sun, she shrugged off the lingering remnants of doubt. She was empowered, and now she held the new mantle of ushering in light whenever darkness threatened to overwhelm. Each breath she took felt like the promise of change. Change they were all part of. Individual stories woven together into something vibrant, powerful, and unforgettable. Don't wait another second. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that touch the heart and inspire the soul. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover this transformative journey. Comment below with your reactions and theories about this conclusion, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this uplifting finale.